All right. Good morning, sir, and the students which are present here. So my topic that I'm going to present is comes under igneous petrology. It's the very get-go topic of it. That is the extrusive and intrusive igneous rocks. So let's deep dive into it. And before that, it's just a basic hands-on PPT. Okay. So we are not going to I'm not going to give the in-depth knowledge of it. Just the basic of it. So without any further ado, let's start. So yeah. Okay. So before starting and discussing about what are intrusive and extrusive rock, we firstly need to know what are igneous rock, right? So what are igneous rocks? Actually, the igneous, this word comes from the word igni. Okay, in Hindi, the students are not familiar with the language Hindi, but in Hindi, it there is a word which is known as agni, right? So agni means fire. So yeah, so the name itself in petrology and mineralogy, specifically in petrology itself, suggests what is going to happen and what is happening inside, right? What is the basic crux of it? So when this lava, or you can say this magma, which comes from the core, there is a very high temperature and pressure under it, and when it comes in this lithostat, or you can say that this lithosphere, it is under very huge temperature and pressure. And that every object in general wants to flow from the region of high pressure to the region of low pressure, right? So when it try to flow from the region of high pressure to the region of low pressure, it crystallizes and solidifies and form the rock which are known as igneous rock. Okay, so these are igneous rock. Now, this rock cycle that comes into the picture, where there's a weathering and this erosion and transportation which comes under their picture, we have already studied in geology, like there are alluvial soils and there is sedimentation, sediment rocks are formed. So sorry. So this perpetual cycle, I'm saying this perpetual cycle because eventually one leads to another and that can be turned on. Okay, so then there is metamorphism. It's not my topic, but yeah, you can understand, like this one leads to another and there is a rock cycle that completes on. But the basic starting, you can say, well, like cycle doesn't have any starting, but you can conclude that somehow it's starting from like formation of igneous rock and igneous petrology, right? Okay, so now uh, let's start by classifying this igneous rocks. There is a basic classification of igneous rock that comes under there is a three basic classification. Okay, and the classification is based on different factors. We are going to discuss about it. So firstly, the basic classification is extrusive rock, hyperbasal rock, and intrusive rocks. So what are there? What are that? What are those? Okay, so let's discuss about it. Now, now the name itself, I said the name itself suggests what is happening at the bottom and the core of this metrology, right? So let's start our discussion. Let me take a pen of it. And okay, so for the classification, we already know we need certain type of hands-on description or like deviation from each other, right? So we need some factors in order to differentiate between each other. So these factors, actually, the most important factors that can differentiate these extrusive and intrusive rocks are: first is rock formation, second is cooling time, third is crystal size and texture, and the fourth one is mineral proportion. Okay, so mineral proportion is actually I have this is I have used yellow sketch here in order to show that this is very important, right? So first, let's study about the rock formation in general. Okay, now this extrusive rock, the name extrusive itself suggests that it is extruded. What do you mean by extrusion? It means it is something which is formed at surface. Sorry for that. It is something which is formed at surface. Okay. Oh, sorry, I'm very bad at it. Nevertheless, extrusive rock, by the name we can see and we can feel that it is the rock which forms at the surface. Okay, whereas there is an intrusive rocks which forms underground. Okay, the name itself, intrusive, there is an intrusion which comes into the picture, and that's how like this is formed underground. So which is often relatively deep inside the earth, like for example 10 to 12 kilometer. Okay, so by the name we can see how the rock is forming. So next thing is cooling time. Okay, so just feel that if there is a rock which is formed at the surface, and you know at the surface the temperature actually decreases much more rapidly when we compare down to the earth. Sorry. So in extrusive rocks, what happens is that this rock cools very quickly in general, and they are because of the fact that they are at the surface. That's but we discuss in the extrusive form. And when we are discussing about the intrusive rocks, take a lot longer time to cool. Why? Because they are under huge pressure and temperature inside of the earth. So that's why they take time to cool. Now, this very important factor leads to a very important conclusion, and this vital conclusion is that which is known as crystal size and texture. What happens is, if there is a rock, let's say there is rock granules, there is rock structures, composition contains of different mineral. Okay, so let's say these are the minerals. My handwriting is very, my drawing is also very poor, sorry for that. uh, so if these crystals have no time to compact, to solidify, or to like merge into one another, you can say that, like to compaction is very like relative word here. They have no time to compact, then how like they're gonna form coarse grain? No. Yes, so they are not going to form coarse grain, and that's why this extrusive rock, that then when you look at those extrusive rock, you can clearly see that they have no time to form and they form very small crystals. You need a microscope for that to clearly distinguish between the mineral. Okay? All right, basalt is a very famous example. Gabbro and basalt is a very famous example for that. Okay, like the shale rock, you cannot by our naked eye you cannot able to distinguish which are the minerals. Okay, but when we compare to the intrusive rock, you know that they take a lot longer time to cool. They have the time for compaction, solidification, right? So they compact and they form large minerals, and you are able to distinguish between them. Okay, so for this, I'm going to discuss, or I'm going to show a picture, uh, which can like clear all your doubt between this extrusive and intrusive, how you are going to distinguish the mineral, how you are able to see. I'm going to take an example of vesicular basalts and granite. Okay, then it will be clear. But before that, there is a very important factor, that is in mineral proportion. This mineral proportion is independent, but it is an extrusive and intrusive. You are able to found extrusive and intrusive mineral proportions. Okay, so nevertheless, it is divided into four parts. First is known as felsic. Again, by the name in petrology itself suggests that this felsic is made of two words, that is feldspar silicates. Okay, so these are actually those rocks which dominates on silica, high silica content. You know that silicate it actually a very most dominant mineral of the in the earth. Okay, so these are, for example, rhyolite and granite. Granite is an intrusive rock, so this felsic comes under that picture. Second is intermediate rocks are those, for example, andesite and diorite, that have lower silica content and that are gradually darker, because as the silica content reduces, the mafic, or the like this magnesium and iron start dominating, and then these are like heavy and darker in color. That's why the darker color starts appearing. Okay, then there are mafic rocks are like basalts and gabbro, that I am discussing about that previously. These mafics are like having low silica content and now starts dominating in iron and magnesium. And ultramafic are those like pyrodite, best example, which is very light in silica and have a lot iron and magnesium. Okay, so this is a basic description of that. Now what I am going to discuss about the intrusive and extrusive types, uh, or the parts, are here, and this is complete description of my things in a nutshell. Okay, so I'm discussing about the slow cooling rate, moderate cooling rate, and rapid cooling rate. As I have discussed that these are slow cooling rate, so this is the complete picture of volcano. Okay, it's not a very detailed picture, but yeah. So this part, okay, up to this, there is a clear division of cooling rates. So this, that is intrusive Okay. Intrusive takes a lot longer time to cool. This, which is hyperbasal or sometimes intrusive, they take moderate cooling time. Okay, and this, which is like extrusive, they are extruded, they are cool at the surface. You can see this is a surface, so they are cooling at the surface, right? So these have rapid rates of cooling, and they have low, they have like fine grains. Yes. Okay. Now this is a example which I am talking about. Let me change color of pen, color of this pen. Okay, red will be like clearly visible. It's have larger wavelength. Okay, so this is granite. Okay, this is example. Sorry. Oh, okay. So this is example of granite. You can clearly see by our, this is a naked eye picture, right? So you can clearly see this darker color, as I have discussed, this horn blend. Okay, these are black grains, they are basically darker in color. Then these are mica, that sheets. Okay, these are mica, you can see, that have fine biotite. They actually have a darker green color, you can see. Then there is feldspar, that is pinkish or whitish in color. Okay, this having them texture which is known as phonetic texture. We will discuss about that. This is quartz. You can see that how quartz dominates in granite. Okay, you can see this different colors. So now, like, you can clearly see that, right? This is our naked eye picture, and this is another naked eye picture, but you cannot able to see any mineral. Okay. Oh yeah, you can say that there is very small different minerals, but you need a microscope for clear description, right? This is a famous example, sorry for that. This is a famous example of this extrusive rock, which is known as basalts, or morely these are known as vesicular basalts, because they have vesicles. Actually, vesicles are nothing but like when they are extruded, and when the extrusion is happening, the gas that is very like comes beneath these gases are somehow trapped within these rocks, and when they cools very quickly, these gases are trapped, and eventually when the gases are like came out from that rocks, then you can see these vesicles. That's why they are known as vesicular basalts. V b Okay, all right. Now let's discuss about this, all that I'm saying about Batholith, the lithology, Batholith, you know, Lopolith, Lacolith. Let's discuss about that. It's very interesting. Okay, so type of intrusive and extrusive igneous rock structures. Okay, now for the classification of extrusive and intrusive rock, particularly intrusive structure, we need certain classification, and that classification comes under the fact of contacts. Okay, so these contacts are classified basically into concordant and discordant. What are concordant and discordant? Actually, concordant means those, like for example, this is the best example of concordant body. What happened is this bedding or this surrounded rock. Okay, this surrounded rock, they are actually parallel. Okay, they are not like cross cutting. You can see these are completely parallel, they are not cross cutting. This is a famous example which is known as this Sill, but you can clearly see that they are like not cross cutting, they are parallel, and that's why they are known as concordant. So what are concordant bodies? I need this description, right? Because like in previous lecture, in previous this picture, you can see that some things, or you can say like for example, this dike is cross cutting. You can see this is the bedding plane, and this is cross cutting. And some, for example, like Sill, this is not a cross cutting thing, right? So we need a clear description of intrusion, like while discussing about the intrusion. So that's why I'm discussing about concordant and discordant. Okay, so concordant are those that does not cross cut, for example Lacolith and Sill. And there are things which cross cut, which are known as discordant. They cross cut country rock. Okay, you can see this is a dike example. This is cross cutting, right? You can see these are cross cutting things. So these are cross cutting, and that's why they are known as discordant. Example Dikes, Batholith, we will discuss that. Stock, what are that? All right. So now we come. Now the main theme of my topic comes into the picture. That is igneous structures. These are intrusive and extrusive. So what are intrusive and extrusive igneous structures? while discussing about the intrusive, which is important, okay, extrusive also have an important role. Like basically extrusive is an important role of a mankind, but we need to know the intrusion, we need to know the start. Sorry. So in intrusive rocks, intrusive structures, Batholith, Stock, and Lopolith are dominant. And why they are dominant, we will discuss that. Then this Lacolith, Volcanic, Neck, and Sill are also very important. And Dike, yeah, more or less, it is also an important part of intrusion. Okay, so why there is a complete lithology, or why there are complete different names that is given to intrusion or intrusive structures? Let's discuss that, and after that we will discuss about the intrusive extrusive structures. All right. So in intrusive igneous structures, I have divided into the different scales. Like first I have divided this into large scale, then intermediate scale, then intermediate to small, then small. Okay. So large scale, these intrusive structures which are very large scale are basically known as plutons. These are plutons. This, you can say, this is the origin of our volcanism. Okay. So this pluton, actually pluton is actually a Greek word. Okay. It's a pluton means a very large size, more than 100 square kilometer of lava or a magma. Lava means when it comes to the surface, or this magma, which is very high temperature and pressure, is beneath. You can see here, this is, you can see, you can even like imagine what is the size of it. Okay. So according to the size they are divided into the intrusion, right? So that's why I'm using large scale here. So in large scale there is a batholith. You can see the name again, batholith, bath. This bath itself suggests that there is a huge, very huge amount of lava, a very huge amount of magma that is here, present here. So this is completely known as batholith. You can see this is covering at least 100 square kilometer. You can imagine 100 square kilometer of magma that is have high temperature and pressure is present there, right? Then stock is like this is a smaller version of batholith. It's massive, still massive because of large scale, but it is like cover less than 100 square kilometer. Like this is the batholith, then this is a stock. Okay, this is a batholith, this is a stock. And one very important thing, we are discussing about concordant and discordant. You can see clearly that they are discordant, they are cross cutting, right? This is a bedding plane, this is a surrounded rock, and they're completely cross cutting. The batholith stock in general is like majorly 99% of the time stock is basically discordant. Batholith very rarely you can see, for example in here, when there is complete like spreading of sheet batholith, then you can see that it is concordant, but uh, it is very rare. Okay, so Batholith and stock are basically discordant, they are cross cutted. Then Lopolith, actually Lopolith, the dish shaped thing, it is again very giant. Okay, but in comparison to Batholith it's small, but again it's a large scale, that's why this is Lopolith. Lopolith, Batholith. Okay, there are different lith, the lithology that we are going to study. Okay, so yeah, these are named under that. Now about large to intermediate, let's discuss the last to intermediate type. First is dike. Okay, so this is dike. This is actually, you can see, dike is a always dike is always discordant. It always cross cut. Okay, so they are discordant, they are vertically steep, and their thickness actually vary under hundreds of feet. So this thickness actually up to hundreds of feet can. Okay, now this dike is a very most common intrusive igneous body. Okay, now when we are discussing about the discordant, let's discuss about the concordant type of large to intermediate, that is Sill. Sill is actually, you can see, when you can see that this is completely what, concordant. They are not cross cutting anything, right? So this is a bedding, limestone bedding, and there is a sandstone bedding, and there is a mudstone bedding, and beneath, in between them, there is a sill. So sill are relatively thin tabular sheet-like structure that penetrates parallel to the bedding plane. Parallel. That's why they are not uh, discordant. Okay, one very simple question. It is not necessary that this is always horizontal, right? if bedding is like this, if there's a bedding plane like this, then it may happen that sill is inclined here like this. But again, it is not cross cutting, right? This is completely parallel to the bedding plane. It may happen. Like students often confuses that sill is always horizontal. No, it may be like this, but like the bedding plane must be parallel to it. It should not like cross cutting. Okay. So now you can see this picture. This is a dike, and how it is this is the bedding plane, and this surrounding rock how it is cutting. They are discordant, and you can see this sill. This is a very famous example. Okay. Now about the intermediate, you can see this is having intermediate size. These are smaller than large and large to intermediate. This is known as one of the most famous example is Lopolith. Actually, mineralogists or petrologists often use Lopoliths as this mushroom shaped thing. Okay, you can see this Lopolith is of hundreds of meters, and this is actually intrusive. They are intruded, and they are from mushroom shaped. Why they are mushroom shaped? They are mushroom shaped because this when what happens is when the magma, which is highly viscous, you know that the viscosity of magma is very high, when they actually injected through this dike or through this strip, you can see through this pipe, when they are injected, they actually have very large area. That means intermediate area, but like for example hundreds of meters of area, which is still large. So as a whole, when they are highly viscous, they cannot further intrude, okay, like individually. That's why they actually what they can do, they actually cross fold, or they actually fold a complete bedding plane, and that's how they actually develop this huge pressure, this mushroom shaped laccolith. Okay. Yeah. Now intermediate, already discussed about the intermediate. Now comes another picture of intrusive igneous structure of small scale. Okay. Now these are the small scale. These are again intrusion. One of the most favorite example is veins. Veins are very important. You know, gold veins. Okay. People are like very spend a huge amount of ample amount of money into that to find these veins which is having gold or very important minerals. So what happens is actually formed by aqueous solution, right? So veins are mineral deposit which forms when a pre-existing fracture or fissure, actually when there is a fissure or fracture which is present before, and eventually it actually when there is one to two mineral that finally deposited in these fissures or fractures or in the host rock, which is filled with a new material. Okay, so this new material mineral can be filled up into the fissure or fracture that is present before, pre-existing, right? So these are known as veins. Now there is xenolith, again lithology. Xenolith are like when the complete unregulated rock, okay, these are minerals, this complete rock, the combination of minerals that actually this unregulated material or rock that actually intruded or that actually this deposited in this or trapped due to solidification, okay, that intruded or trapped on this parent rock, this complete rock that trapped into this parent rock is known as xenolith. Okay, now let's discuss about extrusive rock. So this is the complete description of intrusive rock: small scale, intermediate scale. Okay, now last to intermediate scale, then there is large scale. So this is a complete description of all that in a very small scale. Okay, I'm not going to like deep dive into it, but this is a small presentation, that's why I discussed that. Okay, now let's discuss about this, what is happening at the surface. This is known as extrusive. Okay, so let's discuss about that. This is known as extrusive. Let me use some okay, extrusive. Let's discuss about that. Okay, now again I am dividing into different scales. For the scale of fact, this large scale structures, you can see this size 0 to 100 kilometer. Okay, so these are the size which is known as plateau and plain and plateau, sorry. So this lava plateau that is formed, then when the magma comes into the surface, it forms lava. Okay, so these lava, when they are like completely sheeted or completely sheeted more or less, in the size of 0 to 50 kilometer dominantly, and can like 100 kilometer can be seen in some cases, but majorly up to 50 kilometer. So this sheet is known as lava plateau. Okay, then there is ignimbrite, which is like again which is very large scale, which is actually formed by this tuff we are going to discuss. Okay, there is a complete line, so it's again very like large. Now then they are divided into intermediate scales. Now when you are going to like uh, go into it, or you're going to like completely see this plateau, you're going to see these shield cones. These shield cones are like further, you can see these composite shield cones. Okay, now when you further divide it, this is in shield cone, that there is composite volcanoes, there is caldera and crater. Okay, this crater actually small scale, sorry for that, it is not intermediate. This is a crater. This is like when you are learning from the more or less from large scale to small scale, you can see the break from the large scale. Then there is shelter cones, then this composite cones, then this composite cones, and there are calderas. Okay, when you again brought down, there is craters. Okay, this is not important to know all the terms, but yeah, this is from the large scale to small scale. This plateau, lava plateau to cinder cones. Okay, so this is these are the cinder cones. Crater is example in cinder cones. Okay, we will learn that, but this is a like complete overlook. Okay, so the famous extrusive bodies are Ropilla, lava. By the name again, we know columnar joints, pyroclastic deposit, volcanic bombs, and ash flow. So the main things are Ropilla, lava, pyroclastic deposits, and ash flow. These are very important extrusive bodies. Okay, and we know what are extrusive body. This is an example of the extrusive structures that we see. Pumice, we will going to see this ash when they are combined form tuff. Okay, all right. So when this lava, due to huge pressure and temperature, comes above, okay, and then they are when they are extruded with a very high pressure. And what happens is when this high pressure actually continues to flow. Okay, and you know that there are many cities which are actually endangered, or which are actually very like at the risk of this volcanism at any point of time. Okay, there are like there are certain areas, for example in Port Blair, people initially thought that like the volcano is completely extinct, the hotspot are completely extinct, then now no volcano is going to happen in future. But now you can see that from the past 30 to 32 years, it is now start erupting. So yeah, that may happen. So that's why there is huge population around 50 to 100 million population that is at high risk of this volcanism. So we need to know when how it is flow, why it is flowing like that. Okay, so this flow is known as lava flow, and they are dominantly basalts because it is extrusive rocks. They have low viscosity and gaseous in nature. We have seen vesicular basalts, right? So they are thin. It may be thick. It's not necessary that the lava flow is always thin, but yeah, dominantly it is thin. Then then these domes that are deposited, these are known as lava domes. This actually happens like this is actually due to the fact that there is rhyolite, which is high viscosity. So due to high viscosity is very difficult to flow, and that's why they like uh, form a dome. Okay, you can see here how they are forming. Now when we are discussing about the ropy lava, okay, this is ropy lava. Why? Because like they are in the form of ropes, right? Like you can see in the form of the ropes. That's why it is known as ropy lava. Now ropy lava actually flows differently, and the way that they flow, they are termed as pahoe, aa, and blocky. Okay, pohoho or pohohe, sometimes known as pohohe or pohoho. This pohoho flow is actually very smooth and shiny flow. You can see this. This is smooth and shiny flow. This is known as pohoho flow of ropy lava. Okay. So we are discussing how they are flowing. They're basically smooth, glassy, and shiny. Okay, these are relatively thin, 1 to 3 meters. Then there is flow. AA flow actually, they are actually the, you can say this AA texture. This is relatively thick, 3 to 20 meters, and you can see how this Jeff actually standing and try to like give up perfectly, not a discombobulated, but like, yeah, I'm not able to understand what he's doing, but yeah, basically what it is trying to do is like to understand the texture. You can see this is a very like glassy and thin, but whereas this is a thicker texture, right? Okay, so now this is blocky, which is very thick, which is more than, it is like similarly to A, you can see, but it is more thick. Okay, they are rarely seen. They are seen on the, like when they are completely, when these volcanoes are completely down and they are flowing in the cities and they collect they actually like interact with the environment and they form like this. So this is the basically what's happening here. Now about the pillow lavas. Okay, now again by the name pillow. The actually pillow lavas are those when these basalts, again extrusive, when they are under the sea. When they are under the sea, then the water actually is responsible for cooling them further very quickly. So what happened is this water, then when it strikes and it try to minimize the surface area it formed, then this lavas actually maintain the shape of this pillow, and that's why it is known as pillow lava. Okay, so they smoothen and they further becomes this pillow lava. Okay, now after about the pyroclastic flows. So this is all about the lavas that and how they flow and how they develop. Okay, this is a very basic description. Now about the pyroclastic flow. Now when the gases that is like when they are expanding, they are cooling and they are coming into the like away, they are extruded away or out under huge pressure and temperature. When they are extruded, okay, so you can see this is a very famous example. You can see students of India, what they do when when they when they are given to the project of volcano, they initially try to imagine or try to project this pyroclastic flow as a similar example of coke. What they do is they firstly like apply or like use some mentos or something, like shake the coke. So what happen is when they shake, this carbon dioxide comes, or they actually extrude it with a very huge pressure. Why? Because there is a development of carbon dioxide. Similarly, in volcano, when there is a very huge pressure that is developed beneath, and when they are extruded, they actually form this pyroclast, and which is very harmful, very dangerous. Okay, and you can see that this is a size of volcano, and this is a size that is like more than the height of this volcanic mountain. You can even like we cannot even imagine like which how much pressure the it extruded out, right? And this is why the volcanoes are dangerous mainly, because this pyroclastic flow, they can like completely devastate these structures. Okay, these are basically very like away, not near, but you can imagine that like uh, there may be some structures or there may be some buildings, there may be some people that are living nearby. So it is very important, these pyroclasts. Okay, and where they are very dominant and they are very dangerous because they contain these dark silicates, this mafics. Okay, so they contain at least 25% of this dark silicate, and they are associated with explosive volcanic activity when they're exploded. Okay, and they are often gray in color, you can see. Yeah, now we have discussed about the Ropilla, large, okay, large, small, intermediate, and now we are going to discuss about the small. This is the last topic. This small or compacted rock that is formed is actually can be understood. Can we can understand this by this tertiary diagram, in which the ash which is formed when the ash is compacted, it is formed tuff. Okay, this is known as tuff. When this ash is compacted, it forms tuff, and you can see this compaction. Okay, and this is typically the smaller size ash. Now when this lapilli is actually bigger size, big in size related to the ash. When they compact, they form the lapilli stones. You can see this is a lapilli stone. You can see this is very like mini grained or very like fine grained, whereas this is a small, more or less bigger than this. And when this is the complete tertiary diagram, you can know how do percentage composition wise you can imagine that. And when this bigger chunks of the structure of this pyroclast extruded, which is greater than 64 millimeter in area, this form rocks and bombs. And they are very majorly very harmful. Like if you're standing there, there is no chance that you can survive, because these are, like the name itself, blocks of bomb, block and bombs. This is an almond shaped bomb. Okay, okay. So a large pyroclast are known as volcanic bombs. They're typically shaped, have head and tail. Okay, you can see that this is a almond shaped. That's why you cannot able to clearly see the head and tail, but more or less it is that. And bomb can result into severe damage if they strike. Okay, again, if you're standing here, there is no way you can survive. So this is a basic composition. All right, so this is my end of slide. I hope you are able to gain some knowledge. uh, this is a very basic description of that. This is a complete revision of intrusive and extrusive rocks. Sorry, this is not a revision. This is a small presentation of extrusive and intrusive, and this is my presentation. So this is my extrusive and intrusive rock under 21 page slide. Thank you.